audience, quite a lot of, one would presume, Tory voters, were all very Tom Stoppard, you know. Isn't Tom Stoppard one of those, you know, you're talking about anything, you realise, oh yeah, there's something, and you don't quite get that. But going back to your question, the aristocracy, how do they relate to our generation or whatever, I think just to try and give an example of their relationship to us, and I'll describe them as old left, and I don't mean old northern socialist left in that sense, but just age, a bit older, you know. I had a play in Hall Truck and they wanted to censor it because I had 3 mentions of Mohammed in the text. This was during the Danish cartoons thing and it was all very sensitive, it all went nuts. And I called a meeting at the Royal Court to just, I was confused actually, personally confused about what to do, because I could pull the play or I could change the script, just to make it simple for you guys. And I just wanted to ask, where do we stand on this issue of pragmatism? Because it was, you know, those 2 months with the Danish cartoons were a bit nuts, weren't they? Let's face it, you know. And I was personally confused. And all the writers who came were, one would describe them as youngish, I think, wouldn't you, Chris? They're kind of relatively young, this generation, if you like. And then Carol Churchill came along, and she sat there and listened to my warbling. And then in the middle she stood up and said, well, I think Muslims are oppressed throughout the world, you should be writing plays about that, and stormed out. And I thought, well, you know, that's what we're going to get from, you know, that old left playwright, that generation. Who are we talking about? Hare?
Pinter.
Pinter. Milosevic, Pinter.
Howard Brenton, maybe? Or would it be more?
Well, Howard Brenton wrote a fantastic right-wing part in Pravda. There's
yes,
no doubt
but he's
at all.
a monster.
Yeah, well, so's Richard III. Who wouldn't want to play him? I mean, a right-wing play is not necessarily one which goes, vote Conservative, they're all great.
No.
Stuff happens.
Stuff happens. Surely it is. A right-wing play is a play.
Can we hang on for a minute?
That supports conservatism. Surely.
We'll make points. Sorry, so if you could hold that point, it's a good point. The problem is with this sort of thing, yes, Pravda, right? But the thing is, it's obviously, I'm not sort of saying we should have a play that talks about how wonderful or how terrible the EU is or whatever.
Well, he's written that one.
I've written that one.
But the fact of the matter is that you, in the context of the play, you know, in the setting, you know, I've never seen a play which, for example, would show the good things about capitalism. Never. In 30 years of going to theatre, the assumption is that big business is somehow bad, that somehow people involved in it are somehow corrupt, they will corrupt you. You know, and this is a problem.
There are assumptions like that.
And it's very class-ridden too.
Yeah.
Still.
In what sense? Can you explain that?
Well, in the sense that people who are rich and talk with posh accents, unless they're very evidently self-made, are kind of unpersons and tend to have silly roles.
I mean, I saw something recently at the Royal Court, and I'm afraid it escapes me, but it's the one with Alicia Witt about the Tory MP and his daughter. And again, it was sort of almost like a kind of caricature of a 1980s Tory. But following on from that at the Royal Court was Drunk Enough to Say I Love You, which was a play by Carol Churchill. We're living at a time of I think most people agree, where, you know, things are extremely dicey. You know, we're trying to find questions to certain things. And this was a play which is basically saying, America is just to blame for everything. Was it not? I mean, you know, Israel is.
The good news, I can give some inside information on that, which might give you a little bit of hope, you guys in this room, is that there was a huge fuss at the Royal Court about whether that play should go on. So I don't think it gets an open door and straight through. I mean, it did get through the door. But I know people who draw salary at the Royal Court who said this is rubbish, it shouldn't go on, in meetings. You know. And this is one of the aristocracy, so it's brave of them to say that.
Sure.
They didn't win, but you know, there are people saying that.
Can I say something about the point you were just saying about not showing the good things about capitalism and so on? And I want to refer to something you said right at the beginning, which I think is well worth exploring if we had time, which is about the other factors other than just what you write that might prevent it, that might stop you seeing such a play. And I do feel that theatre, in some sense, theatre writers have to have an interest in failure, and that is not something that is necessarily sits very well with right-wing conservative capitalism, because I'm thinking this as I say it, but if if you're going to talk about how great capitalism is, where is your play? You know, unless somebody is in trouble, there is no play. So,
Struggle.
So what is the play?
Well, you could write comedy in a farce, couldn't you? I mean, Richard.
Yes, you could write a farce.
That is actually where right-wing critique comes from in comedy, if it comes from
Indeed,
anywhere.
and whipping it in, whipping it up.
Whipping it up.
That's very keen on conservative.
Whipping it in's a better term.
Yeah.
The thing is that when you say about failure, this might sound like a very broad, crass point, but I've got to make it. Lower the tone. There's been massive failure of communism and socialist thought. Massive failure, criminal failure.
Yeah, Tom Stoppard won a huge prize for writing a play about it last year. So it's not unheard of. I mean, it was at the Royal Courts in the West End. It won the Critics' Circle Best Play of the Year. Won the Critics. There's a right-wing play.
I think there's a temperamental thing which is really deeper than just social factors that stops. I think if you're going to be a creative writer, not only do you have to be very subversive, you have to be angry, and people who are trying to make a buck or two, or a fast buck or a slow buck, they tend to have a different approach to life. They're not busy looking with great interest at problems and feeling upset and angry about them, which I think is what drives a great deal of playwriting and movie writing. They are trying to construct stuff, however dull it might be, you know, to be the next Chapati queen or whatever it may be. And they're just not on the same wavelength as people who would go into the creative arts. It's just one of those sad things.
I think there's a lot of truth in that, and I think you could have a session like this on why there aren't more left-wing merchant bankers or something like that. You know, it's just, of course there aren't. Obviously there aren't.
It's a good point, and I think you have already your living, breathing right-wing playwright, and his name is Ben Elton. You know, he
explain.
Well, he's writing musicals.
What is right-wing about musicals?
Well, he's just doing the commercial thing. He's just
wait a minute.
selling his labour at the highest price.
Yes, I know, but what is necessarily commercial? What is right-wing about being commercial?
Well, okay,
so people say, for example, that film is the most right-wing art form just because it's commercially the biggest. How is it? Is that a non sequitur?
Well, gosh.
Well,
we could spend all night defining right-wing, couldn't we? And I feel very uncomfortable about this anyway, because the whole right-wing, left-wing thing is just not complex enough as a continuum. It's not a complex enough continuum to analyse the problems of the world. So,
well, in that case, I mean, that brings us on actually very, very well to what we wanted to talk about now, because essentially we've got issues which are largely to do with radical Islam, which are certainly causing, aren't they, questions amongst right and left. I mean, we've had Nick Cohen's book, and it's just generally, it's in the air, definitely. I wonder whether theatre stands on these sorts of issues. I mean, do you think that, I mean, why are we not seeing more, if you like, writing from young gay playwrights about the Islamic attitude to gay men, or more importantly, women? I mean, why are these not being taken on? I mean,
well, I have a very nasty feeling that it's fear, because although in journalism you can take these issues on, somehow if you put it into a theatre, it becomes a big cause célèbre, and people can go there physically and make a fuss or even become violent. And I suspect, I mean, Shelley, perhaps you could tell me too, I mean, it is frightening to write stuff that you know will bring the people in the theatre into danger.
have you written anything and been frightened?
No, not really. I mean, I have the play that's going to be produced next year by the Mushta Theatre, and I write a lot of non-white plays. I write plays kind of that are around the Asian community as well, because I'm not of it, but I am very familiar with it and I feel very comfortable with it, and it's something that interests me. But my play that's being produced next year is about the gay Scottish Pakistani community, and I don't know if that's going to cause lots of. We discussed this a few weeks ago, and the big issue then was the fact that I don't have the word Muhammad in my play for no other reason than I just don't have it in my play. I haven't gone out of my way to put it in there. To kind of, sensationalise it, because there was no need for it. I really wanted to know about, I mean, changing, kind of going off on track now, but in your play that you've used the word Muhammad, is it there because it is?